Hi, Coach, and congratulations on your new coaching position. Whether you're calling the shots for a seventh grade team, acting as an assistant JV coach, or stepping into the role as head coach of a high school program, it's an exciting time. In an effort to get you off to a great start, this video will address several important areas new coaches often overlook. We can't possibly address all the things you need to know in just a few minutes, but here's a quick look at some of the topics we will tackle. There's nothing more important than establishing an effective communication policy with your players and parents. Every coach should kick off their season with a preseason meeting. We'll give you some ideas how to make yours more effective. The most stressful part of coaching nowadays is dealing with the killer P's, picking teams, playing time, and parent complaints. If you're a head coach, I'll offer some ideas on how to build strong relationships with your youth coaches and feeder programs, and we'll close with ways you can endear yourself to your administrators. But first, who is this disembodied voice claiming to have answers to the questions you didn't even know you had? My name is Pierson, and I've been coaching high school football, baseball, and basketball for over 20 years. After seeing so many quality coaches get pushed out of the profession, a few years ago I was inspired to author a book intended to equip coaches with the knowledge they need to survive and thrive in this increasingly combustible coaching climate. I'm proud to say the politics of coaching has helped over 5,000 current and aspiring high school coaches to navigate through and even avoid some challenging situations. So let's begin by examining what I have learned is the number one coach killer: ineffective or counterproductive communication with players and parents. As you begin your new position, crafting and conveying your communication policy should be among your first orders of business. I would recommend putting it in writing and sharing it with every player and parent in your program at your initial meeting. There are a variety of different philosophies and methods, but it's important to find a policy that fits your personality. Let's look at a short list of some popular policies among coaches. One of the most prevalent communication policies is what is commonly referred to as the 24-hour rule. Parents or players are not to communicate any complaints or concerns to the coach until 24 hours after a game or event. Frequently, all parties, parents, players, and coaches, are more inflamed after an intense contest. For that reason, this cooling off period has proven to be a prudent policy for many programs. Another popular policy among coaches is that they will not talk to a parent about playing time or any other issues unless the player is present. This certainly helps eliminate the favorite phrase of many parents that their son or daughter would be, quote, so upset if they knew I was talking to you about their playing time. It also eliminates the often inconsistent communication between a player and their parent. Billy may have come home and told his dad, Coach said I'll never be good enough to play more than 2 minutes a game. But when Billy is sitting in the same room as his father and his coach, he offers a more accurate account and explains to Dad that Coach said until I can finish conditioning drills at practice, it would be reckless for him to put me in the game for more than 2 minutes at a time. After which the parent usually says, you never told me you weren't able to finish drills at practice. There are plenty of coaches that embrace the never talk to me about playing time philosophy. That works for some coaches and in certain situations. But I'll caution you that it often creates more problems than it solves. The thing coaches that use this policy like about it is that it eliminates 90% of their parent conversations. The trouble is, it doesn't keep parents from complaining about playing time. It just means they take their complaints to other parents in the stands, or worse, to administration or school board members. That is why I have long advocated for what I call the open door policy. An open door policy means you communicate to parents that you are willing to talk to them about any topic at any time. Obviously, there are a few exceptions to this, such as when you're walking into the locker room at halftime or when you're boarding the team bus after a game. But the open door policy has some real positives, a few of which I'll present to you now. By keeping an open line of communication with players and parents, you're often alerted to problems before they balloon into something bigger. You have an opportunity to intercept and address issues early. As was mentioned a moment ago, by encouraging complaints to come directly to you, it keeps the coach in control of the situation. Often, if a parent is given a chance to vent, that is the end of things. But if a coach hates confrontation or refuses to hear a complaint, the parent will simply move up the ladder to an administrator or a school board member. And when that happens, the genie is out of the bottle. The coach is often defending themselves to their superiors, and if it happens a lot, every AD or superintendent eventually tires of fielding calls from angry parents. The coach that refuses to listen to complaints may sleep better at night, but they will wake up to bigger problems down the road. Having a policy of being open and of truly listening to players and parents leads to greater longevity in the coaching profession. In keeping with the communication theme, every coach, youth level through varsity, should seize on the opportunity to set the tone for their season by holding a preseason meeting for players and parents. While there are several areas that should be addressed at these meetings, time will only allow us to examine a few. If you are deciding who will be on varsity, JV, or even on an 8th grade A or B team, you should offer at least a general outline of criteria that will be considered. Coaches can prevent a lot of angry emails and phone calls by explaining their playing time policy at this meeting. I'll offer more ideas on picking teams and playing time when we address the killer Ps. The preseason meeting is the opportune time to convey the policy and proper procedures for appropriate communication with the coaches. It's also a terrific time to explain team rules. For example, what's your team or school policy for a player that misses morning classes for dentist appointments? What's the policy if they miss practice the day before a game? Communicating these rules and their consequences to everyone at the outset helps prevent confusion and the subsequent conflict that ensues. Work with your administration to find a way to incentivize attendance at your preseason meeting or find a way to make it mandatory. My AD allows me to alert players and parents in advance that they will not be allowed to participate in tryouts if they don't attend the meeting. Or if they are unable to attend, they must arrange to meet me individually before tryouts. It's that important for everyone to be on the same page when your season begins. When everyone is informed of policies and procedures at the outset, it prevents a number of potential problems. Here's a quick glance at a handout I provide parents at our preseason meeting. You don't need to pause the video or take a picture to plagiarize it. If you'd like a copy of this or any other handout, my email address is at the end of this video. Send me a note and I'll send you what you need, totally free. Again, we don't have time to dive into any of these topics with the full detail they deserve, but let's take a couple of minutes to address the killer Ps, and we'll begin with picking teams. One of the traps many new coaches fall into is the lure of promoting younger players to the varsity. As a new coach, the idea of moving up a talented freshman or sophomore is appealing because you anticipate having them for 3 or 4 years and the ability to mold them. You imagine them leading you to a state championship someday. The trouble is, promoting younger players at the expense of older kids that have put in years of hard work and who have been loyal to the program can create a lot of bad blood, and it costs a coach a ton of political capital. In short, the coach may not be around to see the someday they dream of if they alienate too many people in the program right away. A good rule of thumb is that to promote a younger player, they A, have to be so good it's obvious to a strong majority of the players and parents in your program that they should be moved up, and B, if they aren't the key piece that will be the difference between finishing in the middle of the pack or claiming a conference championship, there may be more downside than upside to their promotion. If you find yourself in a position where it's clear you'll have to cut players, here's a quick and effective tool to offer the kids and perhaps their parents. By asking players to answer these 3 questions, frequently kids will effectively cut themselves, as it helps them to see the writing on the wall, and it allows them to exit on their own terms rather than forcing you to be the proverbial bad guy that cut them and ended their career. Question 1. Did I help the team last year? Did I contribute to the varsity in a meaningful way? Question 2. Will I help the team this year? Is it likely I'll play a significant role on varsity this season? And question 3. Can I help the team next year? Tell players that if they aren't able to answer yes to at least 2 of those 3 questions, it's not impossible, but making the team may be an uphill battle. This puts the writing on the wall for the senior that was on your JV team as a junior. They didn't help the varsity last year. They may be certain that they can help the varsity this season, but there are no medical redshirts in high school, so there is literally no way they can help the team next year. Presenting this before tryouts allows kids to save some dignity by walking away on their own terms. If you're at the youth level or any level below varsity, often the expectation is that your top priority is player development. So you may need to convey that everyone will play, or our head coach has mandated an equal playing time policy in an effort to develop as many kids as we can for the high school program. At the varsity level, playing time is often earned in practice. It is helpful to remind parents that just because Becky only played 5 minutes in one game doesn't mean she won't play 25 in the next. Parents and players need to be reminded that playing time is often dictated by matchups or what type of defense the opposing team is playing. A player may be a great weapon against a zone defense, but they may struggle against man-to-man. A left-handed hitting slugger may need to be removed for a right-handed pinch hitter when the opposing team brings in their hard-throwing lefty reliever. A move like that isn't the coach punishing a player, it is simply a coach responding to a game situation. Confrontations with parents are probably the thing that pushes most coaches out of the profession. After a few bad run-ins, some coaches decide the stress and strain outweighs the fun, rewarding aspects of coaching. While the book The Politics of Coaching offers a number of effective strategies to prevent and limit these unpleasant confrontations, for the sake of time, I'll share with you what I consider to be the single most effective method. Often as coaches, we get defensive when a parent complains to us about how we are treating their child, but it is abundantly helpful if we resist that instinctive response and we instead empathize with the parent by communicating that we understand and respect their role. I believe the reason I've had only a handful of difficult parent confrontations after coaching over 40 combined seasons is because of a short proclamation I issue every year at our preseason parent meeting. I'm going to share it here almost verbatim. Please feel free to plagiarize this as much as you would like, as I believe it can help you eliminate major confrontations as well. I will never condemn a parent that advocates for their child. I recognize your responsibility as a parent is to look out for the best interest of your child. If you didn't do that, you would be delinquent in your duties as a parent. I will always respect the position you must take as a parent. All I ask is that you reciprocate that respect and understand that as a coach, I don't have the luxury of looking out for only one kid. I will put your child's best interest first as frequently as I can, but the moment what's best for your child conflicts with what's best for our team, my first responsibility is to the team. Those differing responsibilities are why coaches and parents often have at least some degree of conflict. But we can be civil towards one another as long as we recognize and respect each other's primary responsibilities. This next slide speaks specifically to head coaches. A common mistake made by new head coaches is that they develop tunnel vision and only focus on their varsity team or the players at the high school level. But to have a consistently strong program, a high school head coach must be actively involved with their youth programs. It didn't take me long to learn that if a kid comes to me as a sophomore and they can't dribble with either hand or make an undefended layup, it's nearly impossible for me to get that kid caught up enough to compete against varsity competition. As head coaches, we are only as good as our youth coaches. If we have youth coaches that are teaching fundamentals effectively, we can look pretty smart when those youth players get to the high school. If we have youth coaches that don't equip kids with fundamentals, shortly after those kids reach the high school level, we can find ourselves looking for a new job. Every year that I've been a head coach, I have given my youth coaches, elementary school through junior high, a binder full of common terminology we want used, explanations of how we want fundamentals taught, drills we want kids to learn and be familiar with, and even example practice schedules. Sometimes we get lucky and have youth coaches that would be wonderful even without our guidance. But more frequently, we have inexperienced people or well-intentioned volunteers leading our youth teams. It's extremely important to offer them guidance. If your state's rules allow it, make every effort to conduct an on-the-field or on-the-court coaching clinic for your youth coaches. It is abundantly helpful for them to hear directly from you how to teach things and to see diagrams that you have presented on a page spring to life. This often only takes an hour or two of your time, but the benefits can be enduring. And if your state's rules allow, offer to attend youth practices. Let your youth coaches know that if they would like help setting up a drill or installing a concept, that you'll stop by for 15 or 20 minutes and help them out. Beyond helping your youth coaches by being a resource, stopping by a youth practice is a terrific public relations move. When a sixth grader goes home and tells mom and dad that the varsity coach was at their practice that day, it demonstrates that you care about every kid in the program, not just the varsity players. And that helps generate goodwill towards you with your youth players and parents. Finally, another critically important thing coaches must do is communicate consistently with their athletic director or direct supervisor. Building a strong relationship with your administrator doesn't happen overnight. It's something a coach must make a conscious effort to prioritize. If you're going to cut a senior because they skipped 2 of the 4 days of tryouts, or if you're going to make a change to your starting lineup because a reserve has been practicing exceptionally well and they've earned that chance to start, let your athletic director know what you're going to do and why. A universal truth is that athletic directors do not like surprises. If a parent calls the AD and wants to know why their son or daughter has lost their starting spot, it is very difficult, if not impossible, for your AD to defend you if they aren't aware of what's going on in your program or what drove you to your decision. Athletic directors don't like fielding phone calls from parents and having to tell them, I don't know why coach did that. Keeping your administration informed is one of the best ways to cultivate trust, and it is another habit that lends itself to longevity in this increasingly demanding and difficult profession. We've raced through some of the more important information for a new coach to know, but there are a ton of other areas that coaches should be prepared for and give consideration to as they begin a new job. Some of the other topics covered in the politics of coaching include how to handle crazy or obnoxious parents, dealing with players that are a cancer to your team chemistry, how to foster strong relationships with other coaches on your staff or coaches of other sports in your school, dealing with race and or gender issues, choosing and mentoring team captains, how to promote your program in the community and encourage kids to be a part of your program, and there are numerous other topics addressed. To see a full list, visit www.politicsofcoaching.com. If you're interested in learning more about these topics and others, The Politics of Coaching is available at most major bookstores, and if it's not on the shelf, just ask, and it's certain they'll know how to order it for you. It's also available for a little over $15 on Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. It's even more affordable on Kindle. If you're interested in having me speak to your coaching staff or at your state's coaching clinic, or if you'd like any of the materials you've seen or heard about, I can be reached at the email address you see here. Again, congratulations on your new coaching position and best wishes as you prepare for your season and your new adventure.